Hello and welcome to the Carbon Circle, a space where we connect with innovators and change makers driving sustainability across India. In this episode, we are exploring the theme from waste to wealth, from fields to fuel, with a vision of building a sustainable Bharat by empowering farmers and creating a cleaner future. Joining me today is Arushi Sana, co-founder of Santerra Industries, a company pioneering in transformation of agricultural waste into biopellets, a clean energy alternative that not only reduces the carbon emissions but also supports rural livelihoods. Together, we will dive into her journey, the challenges of scaling such solutions, and the role bioenergy can play in India's transition towards sustainable and inclusive future. Let's dive in.
For those of you who are listening in, um, today with us we have Arushi Sana from Santerra Industries. We will have a short introduction of her during the conversation itself. But I would like to kick off this entire podcast with an introduction to the topic for today, which is from waste to wealth, from fields to fuel, wherein the objective is to build a sustainable Bharat by empowering farmers and creating a cleaner future. And in the entire discourse, we are going to touch upon five broad subtopics. The first topic is the problem beneath the smoke, why farm waste matters. That's the first topic that we're touching upon. The second would be India's agri-waste challenges, the scale, numbers, and the vision of 2047 Viksit Bharat, where we will look at the policies and also the benefits that is today present for entrepreneurs to make use of. The third topic that we'll be touching upon is from fields to fuel, which is the solutions that is provided by Santerra. And then we move on to the fourth topic, which is policies, incentives, and the ecosystem enablers. And finally, we will look at opportunities, challenges, and the road ahead for farm waste to fuel. Right. So with that, we will begin with the first segment of the podcast, which is the problem beneath the smoke, why farm waste matters. Now, millions of tons of agricultural residue in India are burnt or wasted, causing air pollution, health issues, economic loss for farmers. Transforming this waste into energy can address multiple societal challenges. So that's the objective that we're trying to address in this particular segment. So Arushi, before I get into the deeper questions, let's begin with a quick intro. So would it be okay for you to introduce yourselves and also the kind of work Centera Industry does?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me here today. And I run a biopellet factory, which is called Santerra Industries, and we make an eco-friendly alternative to black coal from agricultural waste. So it's also known as eco coal. And our biopellets are purely made from agro-waste, and we supply to the National Thermal Power Corporation for electricity generation. I got into sustainability about 5 years ago during the lockdown, but at the time it was only limited to me leading a low waste life. And I was very inspired by a Netflix show that I saw, and wherein a character was collecting all the waste that she has generated in a jar. So I was quite inspired by that. I started implementing the same thing at home. Realized that India as a civilization has had sustainability as at its crux for thousands of years now. It's just that it got lost, somewhere along the way. And so I started using a lot of eco-friendly products at home and for self-care and for like taking care of the house. Started growing a few veggies at home and things like that. Reduced my plastic consumption, and then eventually moved to also conducting waste cleanup drives and tree plantation drives. Started blogging on Instagram. I think the lockdown made all of us influencers, so I also jumped on that bandwagon and started talking about sustainability there, because I felt like just one person doing things at home is not enough. And started raising awareness on it. My presence online grew. I was writing a lot of columns, and then I started doing brand endorsements for companies that are actually making change, whether through their products or through their operation lines. And I then got into advocacy as well. So I started speaking at multiple platforms, taking workshops for students and municipalities on how we can segregate waste, how we can lead low waste lives, what is renewable energy about, because we think it's just solar and EVs, but it's not. It's so much beyond that. And of course, like now, I'm very happy that we lead a very low carbon footprint life at home, and that we've been able to translate it to, and I say we because my team is at the helm of all of these things. And I had also started a news platform called NYK Daily, where we were publishing news, like global news. But apart from just regular news columns, we were also doing like a lot of articles with emphasis on climate and wildlife, nature, all of those things. So so we've been able to sort of really convert just advocacy to ground action, and which I think was very important for me, because I kept feeling like something is missing. So I'm not doing enough. And now I feel very satisfied, now that we're able to do something where we're making money and creating impact for the greater good, and something that also aligns with my interests. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I mean, along the way, I've also won a couple of awards and everything, but I don't want to talk too much about it. But
Right.
yeah, it does feel nice to be recognized for your work at both global and national forums. But I think, again, it's never really mattered to me. It just came along the way, and I was happy to be recognized. But yeah, it's not something that ever really mattered to me, or why I got into this in the first place.
Amazing, amazing. I think the aspiration, it is very it is today aspiration for many of us to lead a low carbon life,
Yeah,
right? And when you mentioned that you have managed to find a sweet spot while balancing
yeah,
work, the life demands, and also keeping your imprints on the environment to the minimal possible. So that by itself is a achievement. So well done on that. And
thank you.
also the fact that COVID provided an opportunity to become an influencer, which
Yeah,
then turned to real life project on ground. So that's also a success story to share. So Arushi, I will let's start with the bigger picture.
yeah.
That is, why is agriculture waste such a critical issue for India? Because Santerra Industries is today providing biopellets, which is a substitute for black coal. So
Yeah.
if you could speak a little more on the problem itself, that is why agriculture waste is such a critical issue for India.
So India has always been a primarily agrarian economy and country, and with farming at a very core value. I think that see, I think everybody knows that Delhi, the AQI in North India especially, has suffered and deteriorated so much only because of burning stubble waste. And but like, let's say a layman is listening to this podcast, I think that when you burn agricultural waste, and especially thousands and lakhs of tons of it, it increases the AQI in the entire state, and rather it increases it in surrounding states also, and that is what causes air pollution the most. And air pollution does is, it's so scientifically it has already been proven that burning stubble waste has led to a decrease in a person's lifespan by 7 years, and
Hmm.
it's also obviously a leading cause for lung cancer as well. And we can't live in a place like that where that your lungs are suffering, where you can't breathe, you have severe respiratory issues. And imagine, it's not just common citizens, you just imagine what the farmers must be going through, their health must be going through, or actually burning it right there. And so the larger picture is that, to sum it up in one statement, the planet's health is equal to your health. So the
Right.
food that you're eating, the like the veggies that you're eating, how it's being grown, the air that you're breathing, it's all connected. And if you don't stop stubble burning, there's no way to reduce the AQI in any state in
Right.
the country.
So that very statement that you made, planet's health is equal to your health. I think that is
Yeah,
100% true. And it's high time that we all of us we understand and start living, that way, where we first take care of the environment around us, and it is very natural for the environment to take care of us, as a way of it. So one primary problem that you mentioned is the increase in the AQI, which is the air quality index. Is that the only problem that we are today facing as a result of agriculture waste, or are there any other areas of problem that today we are facing?
it's soil degradation also, because when you're burning waste, your soil is not getting, so one problem is that a lot of farmers are actually misled about the fact that they're told that if you burn the waste, your soil is going to get more fertile, but it's actually the exact opposite. And the reason they are misled this way is so that it becomes easier for the entire ecosystem to sort of function. And because it's a long term effect, no, like AQI is not a overnight thing. So like, they don't understand that the effects are going to be dominoes. I mean, I think it's not about just AQI and this thing alone. It's also the fact that farmers need to understand that their soil quality is not going to, their crop quality is not going to be good if the soil quality is not good. And the
Right.
soil quality is not going to be good if you keep burning the waste. So the food that you eat is also getting compromised. And the
Correct.
amount of harvest that a farmer can get is also being compromised.
Right. For a farmer, maybe he's coming from a point of view that getting rid of the waste, and the quickest and easiest way is just put it
Yeah,
on fire.
yeah. And which is why I don't blame them at all. I don't blame farmers at all for this, because poor things are, they're suffering so much. And it breaks my heart to see them, because they are, it's not even about being misled. Like, wo kya karenge? Like, what are they going to do if they don't
Hmm.
have the money to sit and constantly remove the waste in a better way? And now,
Right.
fortunately, like, you have a lot of biopellet companies in India now, and now farmers have started realizing that selling their waste is actually making them more money than selling their produce. So,
Correct.
like, because of that, of course there are changes happening, but you can't blame farmers for this, because they are obviously going to do what's most convenient. It's either about feeding their kids or using a better alternative to get rid of the waste.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, two problem areas that you have now mentioned about. One is uh, the bad AQI, which is the air quality index, and two, the heat generated as a result of burning farm waste on the farmlands itself will ruin the soil quality,
Yeah.
which might impact the quality of the produce that the farmers are going to grow. Right now, we need to now understand, or we now need to discuss on the next step, right? The conversion of the waste, which is the farm waste, to biopellets. Now, where are these biopellets are going to be used? Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, so primarily biopellets are used for burning, right? So, like, in terms of their combustibility, in terms of their utilitarian purposes. They're used at the National Thermal Power Corporations. They're used at food manufacturing and food processing plants, like in Nagpur. So our factories in Nagpur. So in Nagpur, there's Haldiram's as well. Like, it started in Nagpur. So Haldiram also uses, Bira also uses these, and they mainly use it for the firing purpose. And NTPC is just that it uses it at a much larger scale, because they're literally generating electricity for the entire state. So we are supplying only to NTPC, because for us the payment terms were better, and the
Good.
operation, the like operability and functionality, everything was much easier, as opposed to a private player. So and the demand is so high for this. Like, I'm going to put it under the users itself, because like, the state is still short by lakhs of tons every day,
Every
lakhs
day.
of tons every day.
Right.
And the demand is simply not being met, because there aren't enough factories that are supplying biopellets right now. And
Hmm.
which is why the dependency on coal is so high. So the biggest use case of biopellets is that it reduces coal dependency. And even
Right.
all these food processing plants and all of burners and everything, they all use coal, right? So this completely eliminates that.
Right. To summarize, coal is more harmful to the planet,
Yeah,
meaning by burning coal, it has one, carbon emissions. Two, it also adds PM matter to the air, which
yeah,
worsens the air quality index.
yeah,
So now, replacing the coal by biopellets is a more sustainable and more cleaner alternative. And the necessity for biopellets exists across thermal power plants, and also any industries which require heat, which requires a
yeah,
boiler or a heating
yeah.
source will can use biopellets there, right?
Right.
Right, great. So, with around 71 thermal power plants now co-firing biomass, and a reported 34.77 lakh metric ton of CO2 savings by mid 2025, why do burning spikes still appear in key districts during the harvest seasons, Arushi?
So two reasons. The first is obviously there's a severe lack of biopellet factories around, most of these farmlands.
Right,
I'm not saying that, like, obviously the number of factories has increased in the last couple of years, but it's nowhere near enough. And the second is that farmers still don't know that they have an option of selling their waste to either biopellet factories or biomass, and the CNG industry and everything that are using agro-waste as a raw material. So they don't know. There's a severe lack of awareness, both for farmers and for wannabe entrepreneurs, and like people who are looking to set up an industry. They don't know that this is a very lucrative field and a need of the hour. So there's a severe lack of awareness on both fronts. And also, I think that it's like I said this on our live also, it's always a combined effort. Like, you can't just blame the government for not bringing enough policies. You can't just blame them for not doing for not making farmers aware about these things, because it has to be a completely it has to they have to create an ecosystem where everybody knows about the benefits
right,
and everybody acts on it also, because you have to make it easy for the farmer also to not burn the waste. You can't just
correct,
say kachra mat jalao. So you have to provide them with the right machinery, and you have to provide the youth with the right kind of policies to sort of really get inspired to do this, and to get
right,
inclined towards setting up an industry. And and this is a pan India issue. It's actually not just Delhi, Punjab, Haryana. The AQI problem, it's everywhere. So the moment the harvest season comes, the AQI everywhere goes up.
right. So, very clearly from the likes of what you have said, there is a clear, uh, shortage with supply, while the demand still exists for biopellets.
Yeah,
And two, the access to farmers to sell their farm waste is still a major problem. So the ecosystem is not
yeah,
entirely there. Would it be right to
yeah.
say?
Yeah, the
Right.
ecosystem is not there for both farmers and manufacturers in every state.
Manufacturers as well.
Yeah,
Right.
because Nagpur is in Maharashtra, and like Maharashtra, it's the highest tax-paying state in the country for a reason. It's not just because of Bombay and all. It's because the government has made it so easy for anybody to set up a factory or get into manufacturing. They have sustainability at its core value systems, and at the core of a lot of their policies, and which is why we've been able to do this. You need to have the same kind of ease of doing business in every state.
Correct, correct. So for an entrepreneur who is also willing to start something up, if the local governmental agencies are more conducive, perhaps setting up a facility becomes much easier, which will also benefit the farmers at large, right?
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
Yeah. So my next question to you is regarding the barriers that still exist, right? So what according to you today are the technological and policy barriers that prevent better utilization of biomass today, Arushi?
Uh, I think I think it's neither technology nor policy. I think I would actually just put it down to awareness, because
Awareness.
the machines exist, the policies do exist. We are benefiting from those policies. Like we had almost a 80 lakh subsidy on our machinery.
Mm.
We are a GST free business. We also got help in terms of like getting our the land agreements and everything, the permits that were needed. So I think, yeah, like I think the permits and everything is one more thing that I can add to the list of challenges, because not every state has, like I said, like not every state has the same ease of doing business, because bureaucracy is just messed up in most states. And I'm saying this being
Right.
a bureaucrat's daughter. So I'm telling you that, like there are states that just function so well. Like the bureaucrats are really, like, there's no red tape issues. They take it up seriously, even if there's a youngster who's coming up to them without any contacts and all of that, and they really get all your paperwork sorted. Like I did not have to make any phone calls to my father for getting my paperwork sorted, because the municipality here took care of everything. But but obviously that's not the case for most states, and the paperwork is very extreme. Like there are so many permits that you need to go through, with your bank documentation, land documentation, machinery, everything. Like then your taxation and
Business
everything.
approval.
Like there's so much, and I think if that could just become a little easier, then people would really, because our generation is very like, how do I say, they're a little easygoing, like they're a little laid back. Like they don't want to put in too much effort into
Right.
into the hard work. They want to do smart work, which I appreciate. But just today I read this quote that you can't get to the smart work phase without you've already done the hard work multiple
Right.
times in the wrong way. So
Right.
like that's when you'll be able to figure out what smart work is, and you
Yeah.
can't just directly jump to it. And
Right.
the problem is that our generation, I've seen that they're not willing to go to offices, go to like government offices, get things done, chase people for paperwork. So I think if that process can be a little easier, then people will get inclined towards doing this. And the first thing that I mentioned was awareness, right? So in terms of awareness, I feel like, because I was into sustainability for 4 years, and I still didn't know what biopellets is. Like
Hmm.
I hadn't heard of the word. I knew what biomass is, I knew CNG and all of that. I knew renewable energy has like solar, wind, hydro, and all of that. But I did not know biopellets existed, like in the world, forget India. So I was so to me it came as such a shocker. So imagine somebody who's working in the industry only didn't know. And I'm a computer science engineer. I've worked in corporate. I've set up my own news company also, and I still didn't know. So
Right.
I don't expect a common person to know about it, and
Right.
somebody who's not working in the industry. So which is why awareness is something, and that's something I also want to target through my social media. Like I haven't started talking about biopellets too much on my social media yet, but I want to eventually, because I'm a first gen like entrepreneur. I don't come from a business family, and still it was quite okay for me to do this. So
Right.
if I can do it, I think anybody can.
Right. So as you mentioned, there are no technological barriers because the technology exists to make biopellets.
Yeah,
And when it comes to the policy, I think government is making the push to
yeah,
increase the biopellets manufacturing.
yeah.
So the two very real problems are, one is awareness, which can be addressed through better communication, better workshops perhaps, or maybe mass communication there. And
I
two
would
is
say
that.
more on social media, because groundwork awareness is so like, I would say it's very scattered. Like I
Correct.
can't imagine going to see. I've gone to universities and spoken about biopellets. I've tried and encouraged them, but they have a certain way with which they absorb things. Like let's say college students, they are still in that frame of mind where they want to just look for an IT job, or do a startup in tech, or especially considering the AI economy and everything. So to kind of make that switch, it's very difficult to convince people to to convince young kids to do this. So I think social media is something that Gen Z and all is still very like, they do get a lot of inspiration from it, especially when conveyed the right way. People are now making very interactive reels and all on this, and they give you information in those bullet points, and they'll dance a little bit and they'll talk about it. So then people think it's easy, and it's good. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's strange, but it's good. And so it's quite nice, and that would definitely be one, like, a bigger way that I feel that they can do this.
Surely. The other thing that I also feel is, this information also, it has to reach the farmers as well,
Yeah.
who might not be present on social media platforms, who might
Yeah.
not be using digital platforms as such.
Correct.
So it is also important, I think, for the government agencies to take up this as an initiative to spread the message to every nook and corner of the country,
So
where
right.
where
So
the farmers are also made aware that there is something of this sort which is today available. Instead of you burning the farm waste,
yeah.
you can generate some more added revenue by selling it to somebody who can convert that into biopellets.
Correct. So the roadblock there is that you can only convince farmers to not burn their waste when you have a buyer for their waste. So which is why it is important to first tackle the gap there, and
Correct.
then and because supply is not an issue once farmers suddenly know, and they understand that they can make a lot of money through selling their waste. So that, I think that when we have buyers sorted, it should be fine. Like, I think that aspect is still okay, because like even our farm waste is, we buy it from aggregators. We don't go to every farmer individually and collect from them. So there are already aggregators in every state that do this, and that are getting multiple farmers under the same roof. And I think that they should now also make it into a government cooperative society, just for the legitimacy of it all. And just because that's when farmers take it seriously. Like our sarpanch went and spoke to the aggregators and then got it organized and coordinated and everything. So farmers, like, only a sarpanch can tell the farmers that, listen, don't burn it, just sell it to this aggregator and then you will make this much money.
Right. Yeah, I think there are a lot of things to discuss here, specifically on the numbers, the scale, and how much value there is in the farm waste system. So we'll move to the second subtopic, which is India's agri-waste challenge. We will talk about numbers, the scale, and the vision for 2047. India produces roughly around 500 million tons of crop residue annually, with a huge potential for energy recovery. That's one area that biopellets is also trying to tap into, right? Now, my question to you is this: how much crop residue goes unutilized each year, and what could be the potential energy or economic value if it were harnessed?
90% is unutilized.
90%.
Yeah, 90% is unutilized. We are one of the world's most largest polluted countries for a reason. And we've done wonders in, I spoke about this on your live as well, that we've done wonders in solar, we've done wonders in hydro and wind, and agri-waste is something we've still not tapped into at all. And and if you convert that 90%, I don't think we'll need black coal anymore.
Right. So when I said, I'm just doing some math here. So when I said India produces around 500 million tons of agri-waste annually, you're saying that around 450 million tons of agri-waste is just wasted. It is not utilized at all.
Yeah, it's not utilized.
There is so much potential there, right?
There is so much potential. India ka problem hi hai, there is so much potential everywhere. That potential energy is not getting converted to kinetic energy.
Right. So I'll just have a follow-up to this, because when we spoke about policy, one policy that the government has come up with is mandating the co-firing of biopellets, or co-firing biomass from 5% to 7% in places like NTPC and things there. Right? Now, what realistic fraction is mobilizable for energy in 2025-2027, given the present aggregation and the offtake infrastructure, right? What milestones do you think are credible by 2030 that we can achieve?
So you're saying in terms of energy efficiency, what kind of?
So when you say 90% of the waste is non-utilized, or is simply wasted, which means there is a huge potential there for sure, right? And with the mandate in the national policy for thermal power plants specifically to have offtakes where they have to mandatory.
So 93, they've now increased that by 2%. So now 93%, like they've reduced the coal dependency from 100% to 93%. And we were one of the first factories to open up after they had made the rule 5%, like the initial. So which is why we got very encouraged also that, okay, this is a whole new market and we can tap into this. And so now, they've increased it by 2% more. And this has again opened up an even bigger market, which is why we're now also setting up our second unit, our second machine by the end of this year. And the fact remains that this is one power plant I'm talking about. So in the country. So and this policy has still not been formalized in every state. So Maharashtra has been passed, but not in every state. So we're looking at Madhya Pradesh as well now, and the MP government. So I had the privilege of meeting the chief minister there, who had invited a bunch of like entrepreneurs and influencers for like a meeting, and he told me about how their state has now also set up. They I think they released it in May. I think if I'm not wrong, a green policy for basically biopellet units, biomass units, briquettes as well, and everything, where they're trying to encourage people into setting up their own factories and everything, because there are power plants in MP and Chhattisgarh as well. So and of course like pan India, but I'm saying it's still not enough, is what I'm saying. So even this 2% increase cannot compensate for that.
Right. So, but do you think there's this percentage of 2% being increased? Do you think it'll be further pushed for a larger share
Yeah,
of
100%. Because right now we have there are biopellet factories opening up, every month now. And in fact, just yesterday I spoke to a friend of mine from college who's not from the industry or anything, and he wants to start his own biopellet factory in Gujarat. So my advice to everybody is that just look at NTPC as a client. Start it where NTPC is close to you, because it is much easier to work with them than with a bunch of these private players who also need pellets. And they've done this to increase the number of factories itself, right? So because they are telling the world that we have more demand, and even if it's never going to be 100% biopellet run electricity, because you have solar as well, you have wind and hydro, and I think, but if you can reduce the coal dependency, you can very easily reduce coal dependency by at least 80% if you can just switch to pellets.
Right. By which year do you think coal will be the 80% of the coal requirement can be replaced by 2047? Do you think it is a realistic goal? You don't think so?
I hope so, but
you hope so? Okay.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. And I even spoke at a Viksit Bharat 2047 event in Hyderabad. I was talking about this. They're very committed to it. But it's almost carbon neutrality. When you say 80% of coal removal, it's almost carbon neutrality. And for a developing country like India, it's very difficult right now, because you look at our solar panels also. We are the world's first or second largest solar power, but which is phenomenal for a country that's just a few decades old. But our dependency for the panels is still on other countries, right? Our neighbors, and you have China, Taiwan, and so you can't sort of make it a complete. Even right now, solar companies are not making the profits that they need to sustain a lot in the long run because of this dependency, which is why pellets are important. So
for the energy security of the nation, I think it is very vital that we have a mix of different sources of energy, not
even
just solar and wind.
And even if you want to promote EVs in the country, like we also drive an EV, we have a solar panel at home also. But the charging stations in the city are all fueled by electricity, right? By coal electricity, not by solar panels. So if you want people to buy EVs without the electricity burden, then you need to put up solar panels or something on the where the charging point is. Like our home, it's fine because our charging station is at home only and it's being powered by solar. Our electricity bill is like 200 rupees a month. So, it's fine, but not for the city, right?
Right. I think, India has managed to have 50% capacity of its total energy production from renewable sources. I think that was in the news, that India managing to achieve its 2030 target well in advance. So that's an achievement for a nation like India. But going forward,
like it's not that I'm not pessimistic about it. Like we have all the resources to do it, and we have the talent, we have the geographical advantages, we have the I would say we have the right government as well, because I don't see any other governments that emphasized on climate as much as this government has. So from a very neutral point of view, I feel that because this is a priority for them, we were like one of the only countries to have met our Paris Agreement goals as well, and we are on the right track. It's just that if we don't push pellets more, like if we don't have enough pellet factories in the country, then I don't see how. And also, because we don't have enough pellet factories, they're not allowing export as well right now. So it's one of the products which is not permissible for export, because the internal demand is not being met. So if they don't do that, then I feel like 2047 is a little early. I feel.
Little early for the 80% substitution there.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, for sure, leading up to 2070, given 2070 is the
Yeah,
committed year,
definitely.
we should be replacing all of coal, if not by biopellets, maybe by
Yeah.
something else. Yeah.
And we have
Yeah.
also not considered the coal mafia.
Yeah.
They
There is
have
an
to
entire
be,
lobby. I mean,
they
all
have
places there is a lobby.
they have to be willing to do this. No, they're not allowing these things to happen. And
Correct.
these kind of factors is why I am not very why I can't say for sure that we'll be coal free by 2047.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, there's so much investment that has gone into oil, gas, coal. These
Yeah,
industries have been the foundation of the entire civilization that we today speak of, right? So substituting it without some shakeup is not going to happen. So there is going to be some shakeup, and it is also very clear now that even the bigger oil and gas firms like BP or Aramco, they have all now started making investment into renewable energies
yeah,
as well. So
yeah,
it is only going in that direction, and with policies also favoring that. I
yeah,
think all companies today will start making a switch to more
yeah,
cleaner and efficient fuels, right?
yeah.
My next question to you is this, because you mentioned about the policies being different in different states, right? Maybe ease of doing things or ease of doing businesses is one criteria, but other than that, uh, which regions or states in India do you feel can benefit the most through this biomass to energy projects?
I'm telling you, I said this earlier also, every state that has an NTPC can benefit from this. Because every state is primarily agrarian in our country, So there's
Hmm.
agriculture in every state. And like anywhere there is electricity generation, or there is, a very industrial dynamic in terms of like food processing industries, like I said, or boilers, like you mentioned. So any state that has, these kind of demands can benefit from this, because it supports an entire economy. It's not just about the farmers, but it's supporting you get workforce also for your factory. Then there are people who are making the machinery for you. There's so many, and it's an entire chain, and
Correct.
all of them are going to benefit from this.
Right. But
How-
as somebody who's into manufacturing of biopellets, are there certain parameters that you consider in the or you prefer with the raw materials, like let's say moisture
yeah,
levels or
yeah,
the
yeah.
quality or things like that?
Yeah, so that's definitely something that is very important. Your calorific value, your ash percent, your moisture content. So we have we have a CV of 3500 to 3800 for our pellets, and that is
Mhm.
the most ideal, like very high quality pellets. And then you have so our moisture needs to be under 10%, and our ash percent also needs to be under 9%. So
Okay.
otherwise, yeah. And also I'm really like proud of the fact that NTPC as a government unit, they are so particular on quality, and they
Mhm.
will reject your truck if it doesn't meet these requirements.
Those requirements.
And
Okay.
there are some other biopellet factories here in Akur who have gotten their trucks rejected because the product was so bad. And the
Hmm.
reason it was so bad was because they weren't using just pure agro waste. They were adulterating it with a lot of other waste also, like poultry waste or like plastic waste and things like that. So again, see, now they have used waste only as a raw material, but it's not gotten the desired output.
Right.
So circular economy is very, like, it was a completely circular process, but did it work in the end? It didn't. So
Yeah. So as I mean, when you source your raw material from these aggregators, are there specific kind of waste that you prefer over the rest? Let's say
yeah.
agri waste from, let's say, coconut or arecanut, or is there a specific
So
raw material that you prefer?
yeah. So in keeping in mind the kind of farms that are available around us, and the ideal CV, so we use rice, corn, cotton, soya,
Hmm.
and a little bit of sawdust occasionally. So these are the ones that we use primarily. And
Okay.
sawdust is again very rare because one, it's very expensive, and two, sometimes you don't know if it's being ethically sourced. So
Correct.
usually sawdust is a byproduct, it's a base byproduct of like woodwork and everything. But sometimes
Hmm.
it may not be that ethically sourced, and people may be cutting down trees to get the sawdust. So which is why we try and avoid that, like, as much as possible. Maybe we'll use it in one truck a month or something like that. But
Okay.
primarily it's only rice, corn, soya bean, and some once in a while cotton if the harvest is available.
Okay. Can you just give me a number, like what quantity of raw material do you source on an everyday basis?
We are doing so see, on an average, I would say, like, every day we send out about 20 to 3 trucks. So yeah, we source about 40 tons of agro waste
Every day.
almost every day. Yeah.
Every day. And the unit runs 365 days?
Uh, no, you can say maybe 320 days.
320 days. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
the machines
monsoon
can
is
be
when we don't, and monsoon also just 40 days, not like the whole 3 months of monsoon. So about
yeah
40 days we don't, because NTPC doesn't take pellets at that time.
at that time.
And
So that
yeah,
is exactly what I was getting to, because
yeah,
monsoons, the moisture levels or moisture content could be high.
yeah, it's also
So
higher.
that would definitely affect the production.
Yeah, but it's not. But we've actually sent trucks even in the monsoon. Like it's
Hmm.
not like we didn't, because our moisture content was actually fine, because we had stocked up on so much raw material before the rain started that we were
Mhm.
able to supply. So even now, like just today, like so it was raining last night, and then a lot of our raw material got wet. So today we shifted everything under the shed. We used a blower. We dried everything up, and then now at night we'll send out another truck. So it's
Right.
very yeah. So but the monsoon issue is not that big of a deal, because ideally as a factory, yeah, you're inclined to thinking that you need to have 365-day production, but does it really matter too much if you're already making anywhere between 8 to 20 lakhs a month as net profit?
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that
like
is.
yeah.
Yeah, that, I mean, the economics speaks for itself at the end of the day,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
rather, at the end of the quarter.
In fact,
But
there are people who also like biopellet factory owners that sell raw material as a business model for those 2 months.
hmm,
And so they're not supplying pellets, they stock up on lots of raw material before, and then they sell it for triple the price.
right,
So
right.
that's also one business model that they apply.
Surely, because the access to raw materials might not be
Yeah,
consistent through the year.
correct.
Maybe during harvest time, it would be on the high, and
Yeah.
then it would reduce, right? So which are the months that you have easy access to raw material, and which are the months which are difficult?
So it's not like that. I mean, monsoon definitely, like, the 2 months that we definitely have a little bit of shortage of raw material, certain kinds of raw material, but because in India, agriculture is not seasonal anymore. So,
Hmm.
like, rice is grown throughout the year, corn is grown throughout the year, cotton is also almost grown throughout the year. So, there is no deficiency of raw material right now, even if you don't have every farmer in the country is obviously not cutting their waste and harvesting it the right way, but you still don't have any deficiency, or that, like, it's available throughout the year. Just that
Okay,
some aggregators will not be able to provide you corn at a certain time,
certain
but
time of the year.
yeah, but there are enough aggregators that can give you the raw material that you need.
Right. Arushit, is there some place where people who are listening to this podcast can access to the data and get a better quantifiable data of how much agri waste is present in which district and how much potential is available here in I mean between different states in India? Is there a statistical data
I
source
think
that is
you can,
available?
I think you can do an entire case study on this as a consulting firm and give it to them, no? Because you're already doing such good work with consultancy, and I think, like, this is so. It would be nice to actually have this kind of an information, because in India right now everything still happens on a very ground level. So,
Hmm.
I did not have any website where I could just Google and find out which state produces how much agro waste and which kind of agro waste. Um, our source was the sarpanch, and he told us, these are the farms that we have around your land, and this is the waste that is being produced, this is the aggregator, talk to him. So it was like, so this is something that, again, this is also Gen Z problem. This is exactly what I was talking about. You
Right.
can't get access to information, especially this kind of information, just by sitting in a room. You have to get out there, you have to get your hands dirty, you have to meet people, physically go interact with farmers, interact with aggregators, interact with local villagers and sarpanches and municipal corporation employees. Only then will you get a complete picture of what's happening in your city. And it's not that hard. It took us maybe less than a month of research and doing all of this before we set up our plant. So it's
Right.
hardly any
So
effort.
yeah, for sure, then some level of market research is necessary before you step into this. At
Yeah,
least
and
try
that
and
market
reach out to the
research
local
also
farmers.
happens. Yeah, and that market research will happen outside your bedroom. It cannot happen from a laptop or a phone.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a point well said, and I believe the ones who are listening to this will definitely take note of it. My next question is on the unit economics. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll come in. We'll come to the money part later. But to be able to produce 1 ton of biopellets, what amount of raw material do you require, and how much energy would be requiring?
So we buy our raw material at 3.4 rupees per kilo. So let's say 3,000 a ton, 3,000 rupees a
Hmm.
ton. And for that's your raw material cost. Then you have electricity, which is around 700 rupees a ton.
Hmm.
Then you have labor cost, which is 700 rupees a ton. Then you have machinery operations, because machine keeps breaking down every week. So that maintenance is 500 rupees a ton. Then you have miscellaneous, like 500 to 700 a ton is miscellaneous.
Hmm.
And I'll include logistics also in that only. And because
Mhm.
our factory is very close to the to NTPC, it's just 15 kilometers. So for that reason, and then so yeah, your total cost of production will be around 6,000 a ton, and
6,000
you
rupees.
will be making anywhere between 8 to 10,000 a ton, 8 to 12,000 you can say a ton, based on your quality. Because like I said earlier, that NTPC is very particular on the quality, and they really go through their all their parameters very well. So
Mhm.
if you are supplying something that is even 2% or 3% higher than their threshold, like let's say moisture or ash, they will penalize you for it.
Mhm.
And they will not pay you as much as you were supposed to get in terms of weight. So they will pay you only in terms of your quality.
Quality of it,
And
yeah.
that is why it's so important that, I mean, this sets a precedent for all the pellet factories, that you're supposed to use only agro waste and don't adulterate it. And
Mhm.
because it's a precedent se bhi zyada, I think it's like an incentive that if you want to earn more, give us better pellets. So
Right.
yeah, and that's why I said anywhere between 8,000 to 12,000 a ton is what you'll be getting for ton.
Right. So now, I think that unit economics definitely helps a lot of us to get a sense of what goes behind the scenes to be able to manufacture a bio pellet, and what is the economics involved with operations, labor, raw material, maintenance, and maybe the logistics, part in between, and also the
Yeah.
selling part. But my question was largely on the quantity of the weight that is required. So for you to be able to produce 1 ton of bio pellets, how many tons of raw material do you require?
No, so I can't generalize this because it completely depends on the nature of raw material.
Right.
So like you will need, rice is different, corn is different, and it completely depends on the blend that you're using. And this blend
Mhm.
will also vary from state to state based on the nature of the rice grown in that area or the nature of corn grown in that area. Based on what kind of mixtures are you using, because it's not just rice or just corn. You have to mix everything up and then come, because 2 months we were just into trial and errors, like what is the
Hmm.
right and again, there's no one particular formula for this because it varies from state to state, soil to soil, and crop variety to crop variety. So because one particular crop only has like thousands of varieties so in our country, which is both beautiful but also confusing for somebody that is in the industry.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
yeah, but
So,
yeah.
I mean, from what you have told me right now, there are two key groundwork that any entrepreneur who's wanting to get into this business has to do.
Yeah,
One is get ground level data on the quantity of raw material available and what kind of raw material is available in the vicinity,
yeah,
and two is finding the right mix,
yeah,
trial and error, before
yeah.
you start producing the bio pellets by yourselves, right? So would it be fair to say around 2 to 3 months of his or her time would be required with
one
experimentation?
month 1 month.
1 month?
Yeah, not 2 to 3 months, 1 month. It took us
Okay.
1 month to do this research, and it took us like 2 3 weeks more to find the right piece of land. So that
Mhm.
is again a dynamic factor. It's a dynamic parameter because it depends, like who's willing to sell their land, who's not, and stuff like that. And but if you can locate something that is in the vicinity of your client and in the
Yeah.
vicinity of the place where the aggregator is storing all the raw material, so
Yeah.
then you can finalize something based on that. So it took us 2 3 weeks to get to that point, but it took us 1 month of ground research to figure out what crops are being grown, which kind of waste do we need for this, how willing is the sarpanch to help us. We spoke to a couple of aggregators, like we went and visited their godowns and everything. We spoke to trucking companies on, because everybody has different rates for this thing, and logistics is actually a very big challenge, because for the first 4 months our biggest challenge was trucking companies, because
Right.
we were making more money in transporting other stuff and
Right.
compared to us. And so yeah, logistics is one issue, and then yeah, it just took us a month to figure that part out, and of course legal permits and all of that. So that is something that you'll have info like on when you talk to somebody in the municipality. Like in Nagpur, it's NMIDA that gave us information on the documentation that we needed. Then we also spoke to the bank for a subsidy and loan, and we got a chartered accountant on board, and
Yeah.
who helped us with that. So yeah, but yeah, I'm just listing out
Yeah,
the
yeah. I mean, I'll come to the part where the capex and the operational
yeah,
expenditure that is required.
yeah,
We'll talk a little more on
yeah,
that. But before we get there, um, now it is very clear that Santerra Industries is producing biopellets, and it is benefiting farmers in the vicinity. So how has the solution impacted the farmers economically? Could you share a story or an example, a success story?
yeah. So just a few months ago, there were a couple of farmers that were crossing our factory, like they were walking on the road, and it started raining. So they asked us if they could just wait in our shed area for some time till the rain stops. So like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then it turned out that we were actually buying waste from their land. Like we didn't know them personally because they had been giving it to the aggregator. But the aggregator had told them that there is this factory called Santerra and they are in this location. They are the ones taking your waste and this is where your money is coming from and everything. So when they realized that this is the same plant, because they couldn't read the board outside and all, but when they realized it was the same plant, they actually came and told us that, we are so happy that you're giving us so much money for this. And literally both of them told us that, like I said earlier, that they're making more money by selling their waste than their actual produce. Like their profit margin is much higher there. So, and this holds true for all the farmers that have been giving waste to all the pellet factories in the city.
Right. So when you mentioned 3,000 rupees per ton of raw material that is sourced, so I believe some amount of that margin goes to the aggregator and some is
Very
transferred
small
on to the
margin.
farmers.
Very small margin goes to the.
Okay. So for every ton of agri waste that the farmer sells, what kind of money he or she can make?
Again, it depends from aggregator to aggregator because like our aggregator, we don't get into how much money he's keeping. But we did speak to the farmers that are selling us their waste, and they were happy. So so I can't pinpoint a particular number, and also because the waste that they sell every month also varies. So that is also a big point to consider.
So the aggregator does not just pay for the tonnage; he would also pay for the kind of agri waste that he's sourcing from the farmers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the corn would have different, coconut husk would have different, so all of that has different rates there. Okay.
Because mass and volume will be different.
Great. Okay, so now I think we have covered 3 topics already, and we'll move on to the 4th topic, which is policies, incentives, and the ecosystem enablers. And this is where I ask you questions regarding the money part, the investments, and things like that. So, Arushi, can you give me a breakdown of the incentives that is today available from the government end, which will enable an entrepreneur to start a business of this sort, be it with the initial capital expenditure or the machineries? What are the incentives there? Are there PLI schemes? What are the different options an entrepreneur can explore here?
Yeah, so the first is that a lot of states give you a subsidy if your land cost is, like high. And if you tell them that I'm buying this land for this purpose, for a green business, they will give you a much subsidized rate on it. Number one. Number two, your machinery. So there's a 60 to 70% subsidy on the machinery, direct subsidy from the bank. And we've almost gotten all of it back, the money that we spent on the machinery. And over 8 months.
8 months, okay.
Yeah, but this will vary from bank to bank and state to state because of operability, like operative differences. And we got almost all of it back in like almost a year. So a little bit of chunk left, and we'll get by next year for sure. But even that is fine. Like, especially if it's under 3 years, it's absolutely okay because you're still getting all the money back. And the second is that, second I mentioned, the third one is that your business is going to be GST free, so you don't have to pay any GST on it. And
is it GST free for only 3 years or for the entire?
No, for the entire.
Okay, this is not under that Startup India initiative where any of the 3 years that you can avail GST free. Okay.
Yeah, and the fourth one is obviously green credits. So because you're a green business, you can actually sell your green credits and make money from it. So green credits is what we're going to get into like in the next couple of months. We didn't focus on it for the first year because we wanted to first focus on our production and economics and everything. So, but yeah, we've suddenly realized that we can actually sell green credits also and make a decent amount every month. And then you have, so the rest of it would, I would say, be it would depend on the municipality in the area, like how helpful are they to sort of, speeden up the process and everything. And if it's a woman-led business, then you have loan, like you have a reduced interest
lower interest rates.
Yeah. And so, which is why initially we thought we could take a loan on my name and everything. But then we realized we don't need it because the subsidy was coming for the equipment anyway. But if somebody needs a loan, please use this as well.
So to be able to set up, I mean, presently, how many tons of biopellets do you annually produce?
And so I'll give you 40 and then 50. So we're doing about 50,000 kilos a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is which is roughly 50 tons per day.
Per day. And we do we are putting 50 tons a day, and then we're supplying like 26 days a month.
Okay, so
Yeah.
around 1.5 lakh tons a year. I think that's a fair estimate to make. So to be able to set up a plant of this size, what is the capex that you would need initially, and how much would be made available through loan, and how much? I mean, can you give me a not a very accurate one, but an estimate, a realistic estimate? How much does
Yeah,
one
no,
need?
I'll be direct with the amount that we spent. So we spent 60 lakhs on our land.
Hmm.
Sorry, 50 lakhs on the land. We spent around 70 lakhs on the machine, out of which we got back around 50 and 50 to 60. And then we spent, and then you have the labor cost and electricity cost, which is
Yes.
like, which I mentioned earlier, it's around 500 to 700 rupees per ton. And then we also had to build a shed and everything. So that was, I would say, around, actually the shed construction and the land cost together was about 1.5 crores.
1.5 crores. So how big is the land? How many acres is it?
1 acre.
1 acre land.
Yeah.
So a 1 acre land which would require space for storage. That I think that is a
It
bigger
has
space that
enough.
is required.
Yeah, it has enough. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that plus the machineries and the entire logistics. I mean, the
Actually,
place
not
where the
1 acre. It's almost 2 acres. Actually, not 1 acre. It's almost
okay,
two. Almost two. Yeah.
2 acre of land. All right.
Almost.
So Arush, I think this gives a realistic idea for
Yeah.
somebody who's wanting or who's planning to
Yeah.
start something out here. All right. So far we spoke about the policies, the incentives that is available for entrepreneurs to consider, and you also give me a breakdown of the kind of capex and the operational expenditure that exists with setting up a project or a industry of this size, right? Wherein you're producing around 1.5 lakh tons of biopellets annually. I mean, now my next question is, I think it's coming from uh, from me as a consultant, right? So, from your perspective, Arushi, how can consulting firms like Carbon Mandal add value? That is, whether by helping companies measure impact credibly or by building awareness across industries. I mean, what I'm referring to is, are there requirement for life cycle assessments, EPDs, or carbon credits? Are there any areas where consulting firms like ourselves can, kind of engage onto?
Yeah, I think like first it starts with awareness because companies like you are already. I mean, I'll talk about not just pellets but like a holistic picture that I see.
Hmm.
I think that corporates is some or corporate firms are something that are in dire need of sustainable consulting because they want to reduce their carbon footprints but are not able to. And sorry, I was just getting a call.
No
Yeah.
worries.
And but they're not able to because they don't understand that it's not about CSR alone. You can't just wipe away your entire year's footprint by just planting a couple of thousands of trees or by cleaning up some waste. You have to inherently change the operation line and the functionality of your offices. Like whether
Right.
whether you install solar panels on in your office or whether you or at your factory or whether you make sure that there's very less waste being generated from the employees in your company. Don't educate them. You have to educate them on low waste practices that they can imbibe not just at home but also in the workplace, like
Right.
refuse plastic cutlery and all of those kind of things, because one single thing, it adds up to so much. Like we already know how bad it is, how bad the plastic is. And so corporate consulting is something that I think we should definitely look at. We should also look at consulting with the government in terms of how can you make it easier for a common man to get access to not just low waste products but
Hmm.
also be aware of the carbon footprint that they're generating, because
Correct.
not enough people know that there are carbon footprint calculators and everything available online. But how do you sort of fit that in with your lifestyle or with your place of work, and how can you mitigate that? People aren't aware of the kind of steps that their municipality is taking to segregate their waste. So that is one very big aspect. How
Hmm.
can you build on, and most importantly, how can you work with policymakers to make this happen? Because like I said this on your live also, that for me, I just see four pillars of sustainable development, and that is planet, people, profit, and policy. So as a consulting company,
Policies.
I think for any consulting company, it's important to educate people on all four of these aspects and to bring them together. So from an individual point of view, like even if you're taking workshops at a college, so you tell them about what kind of practices that they can do as a student to lead a low carbon footprint life.
Right.
What are the job opportunities available in different sectors as an engineer? Because especially
Mhm.
I'm emphasizing on engineering because they are the largest student demographic of India. So and also because I'm an engineer myself, so I feel like I think engineers are problem solvers, right? We are born to fix things. And
Yeah.
what kind of solutions are you bringing to the table that can fix this? Like, I was so passionate about sustainability from the beginning. So in my college, like, there was a project a mini project that we had to do, and it was, I think, in the subject of it was soft computing, the course. And the project that I did was on coral reef restoration. So in the sense that I made a code on how I wrote a code on how geospatial images can analyze where is coral reef bleaching happening, and what is it, and where is it, like, where is action required. So you
Right.
analyze from satellite images. And I think that, image vision computing and all of these things, but I'm saying that the use case is so vast for engineers. You can literally fix any problem. So and I also did a coral reef actual restoration project in the Maldives. So,
Oh,
and
wow.
I realized the connection much later. It wasn't intentional. So I realized
Yeah.
much later that, oh, this is, I mean, I manifested it or whatever, but I was like, this was my exact project in college, and I ended up implementing it also, like, in some way.
Yeah.
So, but I'm saying that, they need to understand that the job market is thriving right now for people that are looking to enter the sustainability space. Entrepreneurs have to be, and, for entrepreneurs, I feel the biggest issue is, like, when I talk to fellow business owners, like, most of them are into business just for money, not because they're passionate about a certain
Passionate,
product or about a certain service. So
Hmm.
even for them, this is good. Like, you don't need to be passionate about sustainability or the environment to enter a business. Like, if it's making you money, do it.
Money.
Like, even
Yeah.
if you're not passionate about serving people or helping farmers and all of that, you can still do it.
Surely. I think for a businessman and an entrepreneur, making money is a key
So
criteria to
much.
sustain.
Yeah.
And as an outcome of it, if it is doing good to the planet and the people and the society at large,
Yeah.
so it is a win-win-win for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Arushi, my follow-up to that is, within the space of biopellets, the kind of work that you're doing, are there room for consultation from companies like ourselves, where we can plug in and help add value to the entire value chain?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, if you can guide the youth on how they can set up a factory, like, especially with the information that you get from such podcasts or from your own experiences,
Hmm.
if you can just break down, like, you mentioned it, right? Like, where is that, what is an information source where people can go to get info on this? I'm saying you can build that information source for people, because, they
Yeah.
can, at least they'll get a basic idea of what is to be done, and then they can start implementing it on a ground level. So, like, a guidebook would actually be really nice. And whether you post it online, or you publish it, like, on newspapers and magazines, or as a book, whatever it is. But I think that if you can break down information for people, then it would be, and also tell them the difference between biomass and biopellets and CNG and hydro and all of these things, like, what are the different forms of renewable energy that are available. This is the money that it takes to get there, and these are the policies that are going to benefit you. So
Incentives, yeah.
it would be, yeah, incentives, and then this would be really easy for them then to sort of go into a guided, a structured way of starting a business.
Approaching this entire initiative, right? So let's jump to the last segment, which is the opportunities, challenges, and the road ahead. I have two last questions for you. The question that I have is, what opportunities excite you the most in the agri-waste to energy space today?
Um, the fact that biopellet factories don't exist in every state in India, and that excites me, because I want Santerra all across. I
Scaling,
want,
scaling is the
yes,
next thing that you're aiming
that is
for.
the only thing that excites me the most, because I know that I'm creating impact. And I think I
Right,
mentioned that earlier as well, like, on your live, that we've managed to reduce the AQI in our surrounding area around our factory by 15 to 20%.
right,
And imagine, this is one factory, one machine. So I want Santerra to have, like, machines all over the country. I want our plant to be there everywhere. I want us to be the biggest suppliers of biopellets in the coming years. And I want to help other people also to set up their own units, because, I read this quote on, I think, Instagram or something, that today people, it's only people at the bottom that are competing. People at the top are collaborating.
right.
So, and a big example of that is actually Microsoft and Nvidia. And
Mm.
like, I was invited to attend Satya Nadella's keynote speech at Delhi when he was here for the Microsoft AI tour, and earlier, like, I think last year, yeah. So he spoke on, I entered so it happened at Bharat Mandapam in Delhi, and when I entered the floor where the conference was happening, I saw, like, one lane was just stalls, Microsoft stalls, and the other lane was just Nvidia stalls. And I
Mm.
have never seen this before. And I've worked in corporate before, and I've never seen, like, two companies that were arch rivals once upon a time actually come together under the same roof, where they're supporting each other's work, because they have realized that it's not about being the best company or the better company, it's about creating the best product. So
Correct.
I think, and I want to implement that. Like I want to have that approach with biopellets as well, because I'm very open to helping people, which is why I was also very honest about our numbers, because there's
Hmm.
no point in hiding it, I feel, because there's enough room for everybody right now.
Everybody.
At least right now. I can't speak for
Right.
50 years later, but
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now,
I mean, when you say 90% of the agri waste is untapped, so there is so much room for everybody right now. Maybe
yeah,
down the line, it might get saturated
yeah,
then.
and maybe, and but even if the market does get saturated, it's not a one-time need. No, the need is going to be constant. So you will
Correct.
always need to, because farming will always happen, and even you can bring in the most delicate, like intricate technologies in terms of farming. Like now you have hydroponic and all that. So you have so many things happening in the agro industry as well. But in India, I feel traditional farming is something that will never really die.
Correct.
And you can only make it easier, the technology can only make it easier for farmers, but I don't see rice being grown any other way right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
So
and also the fact that, I mean, some amount of the agri waste has to go back to the soil so that the soil regenerates itself. But
yeah,
if not for the 90%, even if we can tap into the maybe 30, 40, maybe 50% of it, there is still
yeah,
so much room to grow, right?
yeah, because
So
you're still reducing the AQI through other means as well. Like
correct,
you have solar as well, which will eventually reduce it because of reducing the coal dependency. You have pellets, and then which will reduce the coal dependency, and then you have EVs also, which will reduce the pollution. So there's so many things that sort of come together, which is
for
why
sure,
I
for
think
sure.
it is for everyone. So like I want multiple factories in the country, and by multiple people, not just Santerra alone.
But you're planning for a franchisee kind of a model, or how are you planning to scale up?
Um, I don't, the thing about franchisee is that I don't believe in the concept too much, both as a
Okay,
franchise owner and as a buyer. Like I feel like it's and again this is also very Gen Z problem. I feel like they are the kind of people who will just pick up a franchise and think that, oh, we can run this. But I feel like in the long run you have to be very involved in like the day to day activities. You have to be really passionate about your own baby, and you can't be, at least even if whether it's about making money or your product or whatever it is, but you have to, that self involvement has to be there. So
right.
I wouldn't trust, as a franchise owner, I wouldn't trust giving Santerra to anybody else. I don't
Okay.
know if this is a flaw or a good thing, but I just know that I don't trust other people enough.
Right. You need to be in it for the game.
Yeah, like
Right.
I mean, I don't know what exactly the future holds, but as of now I know for sure that I don't trust people enough to give them my entire thing, and to allow them to run it, because I feel like you need to know exactly, even if you're not passionate, you need to have the right skill sets to understand what kind of crop waste goes into the machine. You need to understand how to run a machine.
Hmm.
I've also gone and operated a machine bunch of times to
Right.
understand how it works. So until unless you don't do those things, franchise models are very nice for people who are only in it for the passive income.
Correct.
So I'm not that comfortable with it.
All right. So maybe scaling in different states and having an entire system built in. Maybe that's the plan that you have for Centera. That was actually a follow-up question there. That is, what are the plans? I think you covered that in this question itself. My last question to you is this: what are the likely pitfalls or the barriers an entrepreneur should be aware of before getting into a space like this?
So just for pellets or in general, sustainability?
Bio pellets.
Pellets.
Yeah.
The first challenge is definitely, I would say, identifying identifying if your client is in an, like, we got very lucky with our factory distance being very close to our
Mhm.
client. A lot
Mhm.
of people, a lot of other factory owners don't have that advantage, so because the people around NDPC were not willing to sell their lands and everything, so this is a very big challenge. And because
Mhm.
your transport cost is going to shoot up like crazy and reduce your profit margins if you aren't doing it within a 50-kilometer radius. The
Correct.
second challenge is, I would say, like, municipalities and sarpanches that are not willing to help you. So you need to really have that art of talking to people, like convincing them in a way that this is great for you and your village. This is great for farmers around, and getting information out of them, getting support from them, because unfortunately, even now, people in India are very lazy, like at a certain level. And you need to really be very patient with those things. Then, technically speaking, machinery is a major challenge, because so right now, like, a lot of the machines are made in Rajkot, Ludhiana, Akola, which is Maharashtra, and other places in Gujarat. But the thing is that every machine has a different operability for different raw materials.
Hmm.
So your research there cannot have your research there can't be slacking. You need to be very careful of where you're buying your machine from. And
Right.
most of the times, the machine owners, like the manufacturers of the machine, they will tell you that our machine is good for only soya bean. It's not good for rice and corn. And so that aspect is very important, because it took us a month to really finalize which machine we wanted, like where we wanted to buy it from.
Yeah.
And preferably you should buy it from somewhere where you have easy access to servicing. So
Right.
you will need you will need spare parts and servicing every 10 days. So that is one major logistical challenge, technical challenge. And then you need to have your paperwork, like I mentioned, like too much documentation. And I trust states like Telangana, Maharashtra. These places are great. Like I'm from Hyderabad only, and like I understand how the governments work in these 2-3 states, and I'm Gujarat. So people are willing to really go the extra mile for you, and like in the government, I mean. And it's not something that I see in other states.
Other
So I
states as
think that, and you need to have that contact, in those offices if you want to get some paper passed and things like that. So that's another major challenge. I would say capital cost. I don't know if I should say it as a challenge, because people can also raise funds for it. And
well.
yeah, like if you have 1.5 crores, if you can raise, please do this.
Yeah. But today the banks are also offering
Crazy
loans.
loans, yeah, like they'll sanction it like this. Like we also took a loan for our machine, no, and that's why we were able to avail the subsidy.
Subsidy
And
as well.
yeah, and within a week everything was sanctioned, and we didn't even know anybody at the bank or something. We just walked in, got it done. And it took us we took around, I think we took around 80 lakhs. Yeah, we took 80
Okay.
lakhs for loan, and we got everything from the subsidy also, and then almost everything, and then we paid it off also. So you can easily avail loans now.
Yeah, I think finance part today, more or less there are investors, there are VCs, or
Yeah,
even banks for that matter,
and for a green business also, your interest rate is a little lower on the,
lower for that.
bank loan, and also for women-led firms.
Yeah. So the major pitfalls an entrepreneur should be aware of is one, having a good sense of the machineries, the technological know-how. Two is picking the right property in the close vicinity to the client that you're going to sell it to, and also maybe access to the raw materials also in the same vicinity. Maybe those two are there.
Yeah,
Third is the service that you are going to get for your machine of maintenance part. So that
yeah,
has to be, you need to be careful of. And the last one was the access to capital, which I don't see it as a big problem, but it is definitely a problem,
yeah.
right?
Maybe for some, which is why like there's subjectivity there. And
Absolutely.
one other challenge is tackling labor.
Mm.
So because they will be prone to maybe leaving in like 3 months, 4 months, and then you have to
Yeah.
replace the entire shift.
Do you do,
So
do you require labor with some technical skill sets, or is it
no,
can you train
not
them on the job?
no, it's not very skill dependent, and also like it's a skill that they can easily pick up because the machine is very easy to operate. So
Okay.
yeah, you just need to train them once, and the person training them will usually like they come from the place where you bought the machine, so you can
Okay.
ask them to send somebody to train your
To train them as
employees. And
well. Okay.
you just have to make sure that they're happy, so that they
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
keep going and going.
Leave the company
Yeah. So I'm
very
very
early.
proud of the fact that we are really, and I'm proud because I feel very strongly for the underprivileged community in our country, and genuinely, like, and I was very particular that I'm going to spend on giving them a good housing, like accommodation and kitchen and bathrooms and everything in our factory itself. Like, because
Hmm.
I don't want them to, live in those tin shed homes or live in those under those tarpaulin sheets and just set up base and cook food on a chulha and all of that. So we've given them proper, proper working conditions, and proper wages are very important. And
Right.
even if it cut into a little bit of my profit margin, it's fine. Like for me,
Yeah.
that was a very big priority, that they should be, because if they are not healthy and happy, then how is the plan going to run?
Yeah.
And
I think
I can't imagine like torturing them to just get work done. And believe me, a lot of people are doing this in our country. Like the way they
yeah.
treat laborers is terrible. So when
True that.
I
True that.
yeah.
I mean, I'm always told by entrepreneurs like yourselves, goodwill pays in the long run. So
Yeah.
you do the most ethical thing instead of doing things for quick money or quick
Yeah,
profits.
absolutely. There was a philosopher, Lord Acton, and he said that power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's the biggest issue that I see with these, business mafia people. Like, the way they function is pathetic. Like, I was very particular that we give them a kitchen, like proper, and we furnish it we restock their kitchen every month. So we're paying for their food and everything as well. We give them gas, like we put a gas cylinder, stove, good bathrooms, good rooms and everything. So
Great. All right, Arushi, thank you so much. You've been patiently answering my questions for the last 2 hours. I think it was a very long
thank you
conversation.
for having me,
Yeah.
and sorry if I took too much of your time.
No. I mean, I had the entire afternoon booked for this, so thank you for making the time. Arushi, if somebody were to reach out to you, where they can reach out.
So email or Instagram both work. My email is arushisana22@gmail.com. So it's ARUSHISANA22@gmail.com. Or my Instagram account, which is Arushi Sana, ARUSHISANA.
Perfect. I mean, you also have a LinkedIn account by the name Arushi Sana, so they can
Yes, so
DM
link
you there.
fine.
Great. So thank you so much. I'll be in touch. I have sent you a LinkedIn connection request as well. So we will definitely have this conversation going. But thank you so much for all those invaluable or valuable rather insights. You have been very transparent with the numbers. You have been very patiently answering my questions. Not many are very comfortable sharing the numbers. So thank you for that.
No, thank you so much for having me. I absolutely enjoyed answering all the questions because I mentioned this earlier that your questions were so like technically on point and very very pertinent to not just the problem but also the solution. So I think it's already become like a guidebook for somebody wanting to enter this business. And these are important topics that nobody touches upon whenever they talk to me about sustainability. So I'm really glad.